Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm playing SteamWorld Quest, Hand of Gilgamech. This is my first SteamWorld game. All of the main characters are robots, kind of this whole steampunk aesthetic. I've heard good things about the other SteamWorld games, and after playing through this game, I definitely have my eye on SteamWorld Dig 1 and 2 specifically, because I hear really good things about those ones, and they're fairly cheap to get nowadays. Now, even though they all have the name SteamWorld and they all feature robotic characters, as far as I understand, there's no direct tie, so you don't need to play these SteamWorld games in any order, aside from maybe SteamWorld Dig 1 and 2. Also, the gameplay is pretty different between each SteamWorld game. In SteamWorld Quest, Hand of Gilgamech, it is a deck building game where in order to use your spells and abilities, you have to use cards. And each character, you have 5 different characters, and each character can equip 8 different cards in their deck, and you can have 3 characters in play at one time. So I kind of went into this expecting something like Slay the Spire, but that wasn't the case here. It's not a roguelite game, it is a straight narrative campaign. Think more like an RPG, just instead of using your spells and abilities by clicking on them, you play them using cards and hope that you draw those abilities. It is pretty fun seeing this whole medieval fantasy setting, but all the characters are robots. It's kind of like this clash of two worlds, which I think is really fun. Aesthetically, it doesn't look amazing by any means, but I liked the aesthetics, and I had fun experimenting between my party and my decks, trying to coordinate all of these different cards. Now, really, you're only building a deck out of 24 cards, so it isn't too complicated, and there are a couple different rules, like there are elements and elemental weaknesses and buffs and debuffs and status effects, but if you've played any amount of RPGs in the past, you should be fairly familiar with all of this. The main mechanic that you may need to wrap your head around, at least I did at first, is you have to play weaker cards and store up these cogs in order to spend those cogs to play stronger cards. So sure, I may have a card that does like 1,000 damage, but more than likely it'll take 3 or more different cogs in order to play that. So I'll have to play 3 or more weaker cards to build up those cog resources in order to play the stronger card. So I found when I was building my deck, each character, it was helpful to build maybe like 4 cards that don't require any of these cogs, and then gradually get some stronger and stronger cards. And I tried to build my decks around the type of elements that these characters use. Like the typical mage can use one of 3 different spells, so usually I would build her using like an electric deck or a fire deck. But other characters, they have like a specific element attached to them. So like the main warrior girl, you want to build like a fire deck. At least I did. She also has other strengths and weaknesses. So it's just kind of fun experimenting and trying to find which pairs of 3 characters and what decks all work together. You may have to do a little bit of grinding in order to fully be able to utilize all 5 different party members. All characters do get some amount of XP after every fight. When you level up, some stats will get boosted, like your health or your strength. But the 2 characters that aren't in play get less experience than the 3. So if you really want to experiment and utilize all 5 characters to their fullest potential, you may want to backtrack and just fight a couple enemies just to get everybody up to snuff in order to combat against higher level enemies. That being said, don't think that you can just pick your 3 favorite characters and level them up. Well, I guess you could, but I feel like the game kind of holds you back from getting too over leveled, because you will hit a point when your higher level characters only get a minuscule amount of experience points. So I felt like it kind of encouraged me to experiment and swap my characters, otherwise I was wasting a ton of potential XP. Gold was another difficult thing for me to come by. You can spend gold on purchasing new cards, on upgrading your cards, on crafting cards, and crafting and upgrading also takes additional resources and materials that you get from enemies. but you can also purchase equipment to boost your character's stats. And because I wanted all 5 of my characters to be strong enough to hold their own, I felt the need to go back and grind, especially to get some more gold, because it was pretty hard to come by, especially mid-game. Now, by the end of the game, one of the last characters you get has a thief ability, which basically they can steal a certain amount of gold, and that's how I went back and I grinded a couple enemies and really stocked up on money. So by the end of the game, all of the characters had their cards purchased. There might be some secret cards and levels that you can uncover that I may have missed, but as far as purchasing them from the vendor, all the cards were purchased, and I had a significant amount of the cards upgraded as well. So yeah, it's not like too grindy, especially if you only want to stick with like 3 certain characters and you don't care about purchasing stuff for the other 2. But if you're like me, then maybe it's in your best interest to go back and do a little bit of grinding. That being said, it's not too long of a game. It took me 12 or 13 hours. That's like the perfect length for a game like this, just leaving me wanting a little bit more. I actually really think it would be cool if they developed some kind of roguelite Slay the Spire deck building mode. I think I actually would spend a decent amount of time playing that. This game is a little older though, and they haven't shown any signs of adding any additional content, so maybe they've moved on to the next SteamWorld game. Now, the story is typical medieval fantasy kind of stuff. We have our first 2 characters, our wizard, who's very studious, and then I think she's more of our main character, Armilly, I think her name is, and she just wants to be a hero. She's an aspiring hero, but the Heroes Guild doesn't accept her because she comes from grocer parents, and basically the village gets attacked, and now they have to go on a quest, and you gather additional party members as you venture forth to defeat the grand evil. So it's very typical, the whole hero's journey here. You've seen it all before, but it's fun because it's like got this robotic coat of paint where all the characters are robots. There is a decent amount of humor in it. I wouldn't say anything too knee slapping, but yeah, it does add a lightness to it. Like, our main character keeps on narrating their story like she's the one who's reading the book, and you get like your third party member is like a stay-at-home guy who just wants to live with his mom. And that's also the endearing thing about the characters, is they all have their own wants and ambitions and backstories. Nothing too fleshed out, but enough to make me like each and every character. Overall, I had a fun time playing this game. I'm actually really impressed with it. I did have some gripes with it, like some stuff felt a little slow, and even might get a little too talky if you're not into dialogue or story. But I thought that the gameplay was fun and the characters were fun, and it was just a good romp, you know, a good solid 12 hours of fun with me wanting just a little bit more. I would give this game a 4 out of 5, and I'm definitely interested in the other SteamWorld games. I've heard good things about them, maybe even more than SteamWorld Quest. I felt like the reception that I heard from SteamWorld Quest is people didn't like it as much as the other SteamWorld games. So if I liked this game that much, maybe I'll really enjoy the other games. But who can say? They're all so different. It's really up to everyone's own personal taste. Well, guys, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about SteamWorld Quest Hand of Gilgamech, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!